they left down the street, she backed up with her eye.
The place I lived on North State Street, I was convinced I had was I was sitting in the living room one night. I looked out into the hall, and the light in the ceiling fell into the ceiling. And it didn't just fall down, it floated down. It was a weird experience. It floated down and ended up on the floor. There was a glow in there.
And you looked down and she was zeroed in looking at the basement window. Years later, and that's when the police called. She said, you didn't have it. And I told her,
You've got to see it. It's so beautiful.
It's charming. Growing up entertainment.
If you can play this on your TV, I don't even know how to open the box. Produced by Lee Bowden, 1977.
77.
Total running time 14 minutes.
In 1662, on the south bank of the Mohawk River, Dutch settlers built a stockade around their newest outpost, which the Indians called Schenectady. The French and Indian Wars brought fire and massacre in 1690, but the colonists rebuilt their town. It grew and spread from the riverfront settlement, but the homes in that core have been lived in continuously through 3 centuries. In the 1800s, Schenectady's water link expanded with the Erie Canal. Minor annual flooding continues to be a prepared-for adversity, bringing people together in mutual aid. The current stockade community began evolving in the 1930s, when, as elsewhere, the threat of demolition faced some neglected houses in Schenectady's civic birthplace.
Memories of growing up on North Street. I was born in an upstairs room in a house on North Street. For me, there is a lifetime of memories here, in that house and on that street. When I was very young, it was paved with cobblestones and was home to a very ethnic community, with about 90% of the residents being Polish. For the most part, our little street was one big happy family. Of course, there were family dramas and tragedies, but even though people had very little, they helped each other when necessary. I hope my little trip down memory lane, North Street and the Stockade, held something of interest for you. Oh yes, by the way, I still live here. My name is Jessie Malecki, and I lived in this house for 90 years.
I'm Peter C. Hornby, and I've lived in this area since my birth. I was born in 1926. Originally was born in Scotia, New York, and moved over to Schenectady in this area in 1932. This house we're in now in 21 was built in 1911 and by my grandmother and grandfather because she wanted a nice new place.
Well, I came from a family of 9 children, and of course there was a span of 20 years from the oldest to the youngest. So we lived in a flat like this downstairs. Can you imagine that? The way people have now, they have to have a family room, they gotta have this room, and there were 9 children down there and 2 parents.
Our family, the Schneiderwins, came here in 1842, and
There were several families that came from Hilda, Germany at that time. Nikolaus family, Debbie's family was Nikolaus, and they also had a butcher shop that was down across from the Indian, near Arthur's. And then they were also the Schwenker family and the Whitmire, the broom factory. William Schneiderwin, who was my great-great-grandfather, the broom maker.
I asked your father one time, I said, do you remember when I was born? Because I had 4 brothers and his father was the second oldest. And he says, oh yeah. I says, tell me about it. He says, well, one day your father said, we were out playing, or outside, so he said, come on in here. And he showed me to him. He said, this is your new sister. He didn't even know he was going to have another. I think your family and my family were the only Italian ones on Green Street.
Yes, I'm Polish.
There was a Polish, remember the Dobies family?
Lawrence, Mr. Lawrence.
Lawrence, oh, that's
Right.
right, yeah.
Matilda,
Yeah.
Remember
okay.
Matilda?
Yeah.
she was smart. Matilda was a smart girl.
She was so terribly upset about living in Escuna. She wanted to be in a place where there are people. I said, all right, we're going to move. And put the house on sale. I got an apartment down here at 22 North Street. The first floor apartment there were 4 of us. We squeezed in there. Had plenty of furniture for that, but the toilet was in a closet, all standing alone. You had to wash your hands in the sink, and it was really quite marginal for 4 people.
Hi there, I'm Joe Fava, or Joseph Fava, and I'm sitting here on the stage of the Schenectady Civic Players. It's an organization that has been here since 1926, but we have been in this location for 86 years, going into our 87th year. We've always been sort of part of the Stockade, which is really nice because we get a lot of people that obviously come in from the Stockade to see our show.
Yes, well, I am Jean Sager, and I have lived here for over 50 years. My children grew up here. They went to the local school, walked to school, came back for lunch. There was so much enhancing their lives that today they think this place, despite their wide travels, as unique. And they just love coming back here. It's so special. It's here we are, close to a city with all that a city has to offer, and yet we have places here that are quiet and natural.
The first time I saw the Stockade was in 1951. My father had retired from the Navy and come to live in Schenectady and work for General Electric. And I was living in California with my husband and 1 child. And I was curious, so when my husband was sent to Newport for 3 months, I decided to come with him and take a look at Schenectady and see how my parents were doing as civilians. Yeah. And so I saw the Stockade, came to St. George's, and fell in love with it just the way the rest of my family did. Yeah. And then I came back again let's see, it was 1953, my husband went to Korea for 13 months. And it was the Korean War, so of course I couldn't go along. So I came back again and stayed with my parents. By that time I had 2 little girls. And it was a wonderful place to be because not only did I have the support of my family, my parents, but it's the Stockade's like a village. And I had St. George's Church, which was very important. And then in 1961, my husband was deployed again for 13 months, and I came back again. And at that time, my 2 older girls were in school. I had 3 little girls by that time. My 2 older girls were in school, and they came here to Riverside School. and spent that year here. And then in 1966, my husband retired from the Marine Corps. And he'd been brought up in the Army, and I'd been brought up in the Navy. And neither one of us had a real home. We didn't have roots anywhere. So Schenectady, by that time, seemed almost more like home than any place we'd ever lived.
Yeah, I'm Malcolm Willison. I've lived in the stockade only since 1984, which is